Hey guys, it's Will. Happy Friday. In this video, we're going to go over BigBear.AI as they are moving a little bit today with the rest of the market. Now, ahead of the Fed meeting, we see BigBear.AI move up here from a low down here of 526 back up to 560 just today. And also, guys, I was just outside sleeping under the stars with my wife in the bed of our Silverado truck with we put a mattress in there and we were sleeping looking up at the stars here in California, in Northern California, up here kind of in the mountains. And you know there's a rare opportunity that happens where this black moon or dark moon comes along, and it's where you can't see the moon at all, even during the day. I think it's on Saturday, Sunday, you don't see the moon at all. And we got a little taste of that. We got some meteor showers, things like that, and got to see some beautiful stars last night in a dark black sky. But I'll tell you what, I got into it, and we got up this morning for our live session, and I didn't think twice. I got to my setup, I started my live session. So anybody that was saying, Will, what happened? You got the many likes that you requested to do your live session public for the trading on Friday. I just forgot because we always do it private in Stockmate. We are going to do a sample today, and basically we got in and I was like, okay guys, we're here, and we had our normal trading session, and I just totally blanked that we said that. So we'll do one this next week coming up here. Now, we also were trading what is leading the way right now, which is TSLL. So we just wrapped up our daily live trading session. We invested in somewhere around 3,500. We started with a small position and entered right here at market open. It must have been about 1177 entry, and we ended up seeing so far what was a 7% increase. We're actually now able to move this stop loss up here to potentially lock in these profits. Support level, sell stop around 1229 is good to go. So we just wrapped it up. If you guys ever want to tune into our live trading session, see more trades just like this one, then you can see our entries, see our exits in the second link in the description down below for Stockmates. And also, that sale is expiring, so you might want to at least take a look there at the second link below. We just wrapped up our live trading. So BBAI, we've seen them kind of pull back the last few seconds, but they shot up to about $5.60. Now, when BigBear.AI is getting momentum, one of the things that we're going to ask ourselves is there any new key contracts? Well, their CEO was previously U.S. Department of Homeland Security acting secretary and was also the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Commissioner. Now, when we're looking at this company, BigBear, couple things to note. Their solutions include AI modeling simulation. One of their strong suits is going to be digital identity with their TrueFace, their threat detection for TSA, and also their VeriScan. So the VeriScan side of things, we've seen a lot of momentum getting into a lot of airports. But the interesting thing is they're also going into naval. We talk about how Panama is a really key place for shipping, and that recently the U.S. went through some trouble to basically get it purchased there by BlackRock and not have any Chinese control. Counter illicit trafficking, advanced transparency, global supply chain. These are the types of things that BigBear is working in with Narval Holding Corporation to launch AI-powered cargo security. Now, we've already seen some levels of this, and when it comes to their cargo security or their intelligence or defense, let's see if we could find a good picture. But they had this picture where they were kind of looking at out at a like ocean, and it was showing how it was tracking all the ships that were coming in and out of the ocean or in and out of the ports. Now, here's another thing: computer vision and biometrics. And you can see there, you got a picture of maybe the World Cup there and the biometrics that they're doing. Well, they just signed a deal with the Washington Commanders, a professional American football team. I think it was yesterday or the other day, where they're working with them to, it's more of like a sponsorship / BigBear at their entrances and exits. So that should be interesting. Now, We've seen them deploy into major airports, so that's a big deal. But really, what's stalling them is going to be the financials. The revenue is good, but the on paper net income is very negative, negative 228. Something that we saw with SoundHound, for example, it's pretty common. But when it comes to these negative net incomes, a lot of times they're going to be temporary if they are building the type of infrastructure they are that we see them building. But nevertheless, that income is down. Then when you take a look at the balance sheet, they cleaned it up from 2024 with their total assets now up about 66%, with their total equity up or total liabilities only up about 28%. So you see their total assets now to 600 million. That combined with about 150 million in assets and a few projects in the pipeline. I think it's somewhere around 300 million, something like that. Then you're looking at a fair value, most likely just over $1 billion. So a lot of this $2 billion market cap is buying what could be, and that's kind of what we see with Big Bear. So when we're looking at the levels that they've been at recently, they are, how many of you guys have seen this, in this trend where they've been kind of now correcting down and downtrending, but they're holding this greater market cap build that would be interesting to see how they react over the next few days, especially into next week. We see they sold down on earnings, they bounced. Maybe they're going to be able to recover, but still below here, this 200-day moving average. What you'd like to see is a break above that 575 or that 550 range confidently, and next target would be up into that $6 range. Right now, struggling with that $5.50 resistance and potentially selling back down to that 525 is where Big Bear has its risks right now. So when it comes to when we watch it most, it's going to be at these supports, at these resistance, but definitely around earnings time. It will give us some more answers around the next earnings. I have long-term positions, though, in the company around $2.80 a share. Started covering them around $1. We've seen them surge up to $10. I still hold those same positions despite the volatility. I like them in the long term, really good plays for their infrastructure. However, in the short term, more uncertainty, kind of trying to break above that 550 range. But we'll see if any opportunities present themselves at market open tomorrow for Stockmate. And you can also get a link there every morning at market open. And I'll give you a personal phone call if you decide to join. And also a free t-shirt that we send to every single member. We have these free cups too that we give out to our top members. They're pretty cool. So as we're here on Friday, it's a great time to consider Stockmate. You see, this has a take profit and a stop loss that we can write in with the expo marker. And while I share with you all of our targets for the upcoming weeks, whether they're the earnings, the different companies that are reporting, even in the bearish projections we've had over the last few weeks, they've been pretty spot on. And we have our pre-market and after hours. You can see exactly when companies are reporting, when they're reporting, what you need to know about those upcoming earnings reports and what they have for targets. But I'll tell you what, one thing I can't predict, that I really have no idea, I'm very ignorant of what's going to happen, is going to be the Fed meeting. The Fed meeting here, we got Jackson Hole's speech. It's Powell's last keynote. And, economic outlook on this is that we got to see their long-term goals. One of the things we talked about this morning, which was our conversation in Stockmate this morning, was that some of you guys might not know, but there's this really great book. It's called Jekyll Hyde. Okay, in this book, or not Jekyll and Hyde, Jekyll Island is what it's called. And it's a book that talks about basically calling out the Federal Reserve as the most blatant scam in history. That's what it says. The interesting part about this is, I've gone through it multiple times and it's highly accurate. There are some, storytelling, but for the most part, when it comes to this book from Edward Griffin, the key is that the Federal Reserve was created by, Charles Schwab, J.P. Morgan, some other big institutional names that you would know, and they came up with this idea to preserve their wealth, and they call it the Federal Reserve. Why did they call it the Federal Reserve? Well, they were thinking, we got to come up with a name that sounds like the government, but legally there was no ability for any company to come up with a name that had the word government in it. So they came up with the Federal Reserve. Now, basically, what that means, the Federal Reserve is not, a government agency. It's a third party. It's something that the U.S. does not control. Congress doesn't control it. The president doesn't control it. And while you might say that's terrible. One of the arguments is that they did that to preserve their wealth. J.P. Morgan and some of the big banks and institutions did that to preserve their wealth, and they wanted it that way so that they wouldn't worry about a president or a economic or a party, the monetary system falling or failing, and them losing all of the billions and billions of dollars they had acquired through steel or their banking and institutions. They wanted to ensure their money stayed safe forever, and so what that meant was, how can we create a monetary system that's not controlled by the government? Well, we got to make it sound like the government. We got to control it. They even have a U.S. flag behind, and it says U.S. Feds. But what's the problem? Well, you see, Trump ramps up pressure against the Federal Reserve. Market impact is that investors are waiting for signals, rate cuts, things like that. But political pressure is that Trump is saying, I'm going to fire you. I'm going to make sure you're out of here. I'm going to, we're going to change the game. We're going to change the structure of this monetary policy. And basically, it's like he can't fire him. He can't veto it. He can't. It's an organization. The only thing that you could do is like rate it, or what's another option? I mean, get in his pocket or something like that, right? So that is what's going on. And so I see it that way. Some people say, "Will, that's really, really a right-winged way of looking at it." And look, I'm a Californian. I grew up in all places, and not am I always proud to be quote unquote Californian, but I'll tell you, like, when it comes to the economic view, I mean, I just looked at a lot of the facts. I mean, it kind of makes sense. That's why there's so much animosity right now between the Fed and the U.S. government right now. That's what's going on, and so that causes this book talks about the instability and everything else. Anyway, thought it would be interesting to share with you guys a book to read, and nevertheless, it's just one of the many things we talk about in Stockmate. If you guys ever want to catch our live sessions, it's the second link in the description. We also went over some quotes for today. If you guys didn't write down your goals the night before, write down your goals today. Earl Nightingale says, "Time can't be managed. I merely manage activities. Each night I write down on a sheet of paper the list of the things I have to accomplish the next day, and then I wake up and I do them." And so remember, people with goals succeed because they know where they're going. And what's the definition of success? Everybody here, you tuned in, learning how to invest, how to manage your money better, how to make trades like we did this morning. And what does that mean? Well, the quote by Earl is that the success you're looking for, success, is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal or a worthy goal. So in other words, as long as you're working towards something, you're on the journey, you're on the path, you're on the route to a specified goal, you are a success.